For social media and political bias, Google CEO Sundar Pichai warning employees against letting politics interfere with work. In a memo obtained by the Wall Street Journal, Pichai writes this: "We do not bias our products to favor any political agenda. The trust our users place in us is our greatest asset, and we must always protect it. If any Googler ever undermines that trust, we will hold them accountable." This comes as the web giant fends off allegations that its search engine is biased, and just days after the Wall Street Journal reported that Google employees discussed tweaking search results after President Trump's travel ban. Joining us right now is former Hillary for America senior advisor, Democratic strategist Adrienne Elrod. Adrienne, good to see you this morning. Thanks for weighing in here. Your reaction to this?
Yeah, look, I think that this was smart for the Google CEO to do this. Obviously, they've got to get out in front of this issue that's plagued the company over the last few months. It's certainly not ideal when you see somebody like Sergey Brin telling his employees that we're disappointed in the results of this election. It's no surprise that a lot of Google employees would, of course, be Democrats because they live in Silicon Valley. But to have this sort of publicly out here only adds more to the conspiracy theories, if you will, that Google is skewing their search results geared toward Democrats.
Well, I think that the Google employees actually said that, so it wasn't really a conspiracy. The employees actually said it. And we have a couple of instances where you searched for Republican GOP in California and you got up Nazism. So something was going wrong with the algorithm there. I would expect the Google CEO to be testifying the way that Twitter CEO and Facebook executives did as well. Your thoughts?
They absolutely, the Google CEO is in hiding and absolutely needs to speak to all these issues about bias, because they always fall back on the, oh, it was the algorithm, right. The completely non-transparent, the non-transparent algorithm. And there are instances, and I've cited this before, when Doug Weed, is a frequent guest on the Fox Business Network, tried to buy an ad promoting an interview that he had done on Fox Business. They declined to run the ad, citing hate speech because of the crawl at the bottom of the television screen quoted President Trump saying witch hunt, and witch hunt was considered by an employee to be hate speech, and he couldn't, and they actually shut his account down at one point. This was all on YouTube, a YouTube account.
So again,
there are a lot of people with bias within Google who are using that bias and extracting revenge, if you will, on conservatives, and they always blame the computer algorithm, and there's a lot more at play than that.
Yeah, and James, the actor James Woods, is bashing Twitter. His account was locked over a satirical tweet dated July 20th, which encouraged men not to vote in the midterm elections. Woods refused to delete the tweet, arguing that Twitter is suppressing his right to free speech. Lee, what do you think about that?
Listen, I think that this is a slippery slope, and that all of the social media and, Silicon Valley firms really need to be careful right now, because as open-minded as they say that they are, they clearly aren't. There's bias within, and I'm glad that the Google CEO made a statement, but there needs to go further. They need to talk about systemic changes they're going to make. One of the things that we find over and over again in communication is it's not enough just to say you're sorry, or we're saying that we're working on this, we're saying that there's trust. What are the actions behind this to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And there's certainly evidence when we're talking about, when you search in Google for what is a Republican and you get Nazism, and that's what was happening in California, that is a bigger problem, and we need to know what they're doing to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, Adrienne, your take.
Yeah, look, I'm frankly surprised that James Wood wasn't kicked off Twitter from some of his racist and misogynistic comments that he's made in the past. I'm not sure why this actually triggered the final step for Twitter to kick him off.
What remarks are you referring to, Adrienne? What did he say racist?
He's made tons of tweets.
Can you relay one of them to us?
I don't have any right in front of me, but I certainly know that he's been ridiculed in the media time and time again for making racist and misogynistic comments.
Let's get the facts, and then when you get them, we can come back and talk about that. Mitch, did you want to jump in?
Happy to.
Yeah. The one thing I'm trying to figure out, Adrienne, is in these companies, are these remarks that they make to the media or to their employees, is it really from a PR branding perspective that they're trying to protect their brand? Beyond that, is there something going on in the company from a training perspective where they're trying to explain to employees that they need to take their political ideology and put it to the side and focus on the business at hand? Have they gotten to the point where they're really focusing on a culture shift as opposed to just a message?
Look, I don't work at Google. I don't work for one of the tech companies, so I'm not sure. But I think part of the issue here is that we don't know what comprises an algorithm. And I think that, you know, it's certainly not something that any of these tech companies want to disclose. But when they're going in front of Congress and testifying, these CEOs and senior executives from tech companies, you know, part of the mystery is what comprises an algorithm and what actually comprises search results. So I think that not knowing that and not being able to disclose that, that's part of the mystery here, and that's why there's so much criticism.
Well, I'll add to that, what we do know is that the employees at Google, whether it's particularly with YouTube content, they exercise, and this is according to the Wall Street Journal editorial page, they exercise significant control over what users see and don't see. And according to a lawsuit filed by Prager University, because they filed a lawsuit over censorship.
Right. They were censored, right.
Human reviewers appear to enjoy carte blanche to block flagged content. That you can flag content as being offensive, and there are people within the company that can just pull it. And Doug Weed, the story from Doug Weed seconds that.
It's pretty clear that they're going to have to change some of their policies and change their business practices, or face the wrath of bigger government.
But we need to highlight the vast power that Google has over our lives.
It's 90% of all search.
90% of all search. And if you look at advertising, it's Facebook and Google control 60% of all online advertising.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
No, it's incredible.
And there's virtually no regulation on these companies at all.
There could be a risk of actually forced to get smaller. I mean, how long did we talk about the power of the banks, too big to fail, forcing, you know, acquisitions to slow down? And I mean, that's really one of the risks, that the government will force this company to break up.
I liken it to the telephone industry. When I entered the work world, they took AT&T and they split it up into a bunch of different pieces.
Ma Bell.
Basically precisely for this reason, that there was just too much control over communication in one spot.
And I think that's why you're seeing this memo come out by the CEO of Google, reiterating that there's no place for politics, because they're figuring out that they are now very clearly in the sights of government.